I never imagined my sister's wedding would be the day my life split cleanly into before and after. But I should have known something was wrong the moment my invitation arrived, 3 days before the ceremony. Kitchen staff entrance only. The words were printed in elegant gold script, ruined by a crudely drawn arrow pointing toward the back of the venue. Victoria had always been the golden child. I was the afterthought. She climbed corporate ladders in designer heels, every milestone celebrated and praised. I chose a classroom full of underprivileged children, spending my days teaching hope instead of chasing status. Our parents never let me forget which path they respected. "Why can't you be more like your sister?" my mother would sigh, eyeing my sensible shoes with open disappointment. "She's marrying James Anderson, CEO of Anderson Industries. And you, what do you have to show for yourself?" What they never understood was that fulfillment doesn't always sparkle. My apartment was small, my car was old, but the joy on a child's face when they finally understood something difficult, that was wealth no luxury condo could match. Still, I went. Victoria was my sister, even though she'd barely spoken to me since getting engaged, even though this invitation felt more like a warning than a welcome. I slipped into my best dress, simple, elegant, unbranded, and drove my aging Honda Civic to the Grand Plaza Hotel. The security guard glanced at my invitation and didn't bother hiding his disdain. "Service entrance," he said, already pointing. I entered through the kitchen, weaving between frantic staff and towering trays of gourmet food. A hostess eventually guided me to a table hidden behind a marble pillar, tucked so far away it barely felt like part of the wedding. "These were the bride's instructions," she murmured apologetically. "Guests who might distract from the couple should remain out of sight." My hands trembled as I sat. Plastic utensils lay neatly on the table. Across the room, fine china glinted beneath crystal chandeliers. Beside my plate rested a handwritten note in Victoria's familiar cursive. "Know your place, little sister. Don't ruin this for me." I should have left. I should have walked out with my dignity intact. But something rooted me there, the same stubborn resolve that had pushed me to choose purpose over prestige all those years ago. The ceremony was flawless, predictably perfect. Victoria floated down the aisle in a gown worth more than my annual salary. James Anderson waited at the altar, polished and powerful, the man business magazines adored. And then, he saw me. Across the crowded room, his eyes locked onto mine. James Anderson, Billionaire CEO, froze. The wedding ring slipped from his fingers. It struck the marble floor with a sharp ping, rolled once, twice, and stopped at my feet. As I bent to pick it up, 15 years of memories came crashing back. I was 19, working at a small coffee shop in Boston. He was 22, ordering black coffee, no sugar, every single morning. Back then, he wasn't James Anderson. He was Jamie, a graduate student with ideals too big for the world he'd been born into. We had 6 perfect months, dreams, plans, conversations about ethical business and education reform. We talked about changing the world together. Then he vanished. No goodbye, no explanation, just gone. A year later, I saw his face in a glossy magazine, heir to Anderson Industries, engaged to a socialite. I told myself it didn't hurt anymore. I lied. Now he stood before me, staring like he'd seen a ghost, while my sister, his bride, watched in confusion. "Jamie," I whispered, extending the ring. The color drained from his face. Victoria laughed sharply. "James, darling, do you know my pathetic little sister?" He didn't answer. His gaze dropped to my left hand, where a thin silver ring still rested, the one he'd given me in that Boston coffee shop, engraved with words I'd never been able to erase. "To my Emma, who taught me what really matters." "Emma," he breathed. In that single word lived 15 years of regret. Victoria's voice sharpened. "James, what is going on?" Before he could respond, a tall, distinguished man rose from the front row. Richard Anderson Sr., founder of Anderson Industries. His expression was dark with recognition as he approached the altar. "Son," his voice thundered through the silent hall, "tell me this isn't the Emma, the same Emma." James straightened, resolve hardening in his eyes. For the first time, I saw the man I'd once loved. "Yes, father," he said clearly, "this is Emma Chin, The woman you paid $5 million to disappear 15 years ago. The room erupted. Gasps, whispers, phones raised. Victoria's fairy tale wedding collapsed in an instant, her face draining of color. $5 million? She whispered. And just like that, everything changed. I stood slowly, my teacher's salary suddenly feeling very different. You paid me to disappear? Richard Anderson Sr. adjusted his silk tie, his voice clipped and unapologetic. I paid your mother. She assured me you would never contact James again, said you understood it was for the best. My mother. Of course. The memories rearranged themselves with brutal clarity, her sudden insistence that I transfer universities, the unexplained deposit in my college fund, her constant warnings that James, was far beyond my league. You knew? I turned to her. She shrank in her seat, eyes darting away. You took money to separate us? It was for your own good, she said, standing, her designer dress whispering with movement. Look at your life. A teacher in a tiny apartment. James needed someone who understood his world. Victoria was perfect. Perfect? James let out a hollow laugh. Perfect for the company's image. You mean, just like the socialite you pushed on me after Emma vanished. Did you tell Victoria about that too, Father? Or about how you've been managing my relationships for 15 years? Victoria stiffened. James, darling, surely you're not comparing her to me. She gestured toward me dismissively. Look at her dress, it's not even designer. No, James said quietly, it's handmade. He looked at me, something soft breaking through his anger. Emma always said the most valuable things are made with love, not money. He turned fully toward me. You still make your own clothes? I nodded. My throat tightened. He remembered. This is absurd. Richard Anderson Sr. barked. You have responsibilities. James. The merger with Victoria's father's company? The merger? James's voice went cold. Is that what this wedding really is? Another business deal? Victoria's face drained of color. What do you mean? James faced her now. Your father's company is collapsing. This marriage would save it. That's why he pushed you toward me so aggressively. Her father leapt to his feet. Now listen. James raised a hand, silencing him. He reached into his jacket and removed a small USB drive. I found these last week. Father, documents you thought were buried. About 15 years ago. About why you really wanted Emma gone. Richard Anderson Sr.'s face turned gray. Emma wasn't just my girlfriend, James said, his voice carrying through the hushed room. She was volunteering at a youth center in South Boston, a center slated for demolition by our company. Hundreds of families would have been displaced. My chest tightened. I remembered the protests, the meetings, the long nights organizing neighbors. Jamie had stood beside me then. He'd believed. She was mobilizing the community. James continued. The media was circling. If that development failed, it wouldn't just cost money, it would prove Anderson Industries could be challenged. So you removed the problem. Richard Anderson Sr. collapsed into his chair. You paid her mother, James said, voice icy. Erased our relationship. Donated to her new university to ensure her transfer. You didn't just separate us, you rewrote our lives. I protected the company, his father muttered. James laughed once. The company that now belongs to me. Gasps rippled through the room. As of last week, I became the majority shareholder. Father signed control over as an early wedding gift. He smiled thinly. Ironic. Really. He walked toward me, ignoring Victoria's strangled protest. I spent 15 years believing you abandoned me, he said softly. 15 years trying to become the son he wanted. Then I found the truth. I planned to stop the wedding until I saw your name on the guest list. Seated near the kitchen, I added dryly. He smiled. Victoria has always had a flair for theatrics. He turned to my sister. The wedding is off, and you might want to examine your father's financials before he lines up his next strategic marriage. Victoria screamed, hurling her bouquet. It missed us completely, crashing into a champagne tower. Crystal shattered across the floor. As my first act as CEO, James announced over the chaos, Anderson Industries will establish a $100 million foundation for educational initiatives in underserved communities. He looked at me. We need a director, someone who understands education and community advocacy. Interested? My mother rushed forward. Emma, sweetheart, I always knew. Save it, I said calmly. You've helped enough. I turned to James. Does the job come with a corner office? He grinned. Only if you'll have dinner with me first. I know a coffee shop in Boston. You can't do this, Victoria shrieked. Daddy, stop him. But her father was already fleeing the room. Phone pressed to his ear. Richard Anderson Sr. rose unsteadily. James, think carefully. Oh, I have. For 15 years. James took my hand. The company's image could use a reset. Less greed, more responsibility. Emma always said success isn't measured by money, he added quietly, but by how many lives you change. I barely heard my sister's continued meltdown. I was staring at the silver ring I'd never removed. You kept it, James said, brushing it gently. You came back, I replied. 6 months later, the Anderson Chin Educational Foundation had funded 50 community programs. Victoria married a minor European prince who, ironically, championed socialist ideals. My parents developed a sudden interest in philanthropy, though invitations to family events kept getting lost. Richard Anderson Sr. retired to Italy. His letter of apology arrived months later. I framed it beside the newspaper article announcing our foundation's launch. James and I still visit that Boston coffee shop. He still orders black coffee, no sugar. But now, when we talk about changing the world, we actually do. The silver ring finally has company, a simple gold band, engraved. To my James, who came back to what really matters. Sometimes, the best revenge isn't getting even. It's getting it right.